Wow, is it ever warm in here? It is 24 degrees Celsius or 75 degrees Fahrenheit in the greenhouse here. Oh my goodness. I guess the sun was a little stronger than I expected. I have the heat right off. The vents aren't open. Well, that's a good thing. Well, I better open the door a bit. Keep it kind of cool in here. I'm sure once the sun sets, it'll cool down dramatically. Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I'm going to be working on my Trident Maple seedling. I last pruned this tree in July of last year. It had a leader that grew really long. I also root pruned it last year in March, where I took off half the tap root. I pruned off some of the radial roots and planted it. So this year I'm going to repot it again, work on the roots some more. But today I'm going to give the tree another pruning. Here is a look at the tree now. So you can see from the last time I pruned it, it's grown really well. I'll show you a shot of what it looked like when I last pruned it in July. So now you can see from that last pruning, it's grown. Not quite as much as it was before I pruned it, but it certainly grew well for the second half of summer. It also recovered from its root pruning really well. I'll show you some shots of the roots, what they look like when I pruned them and planted it. It's nice to be finally able to collect some rainwater. It's been so cold and freezing for the last couple of weeks. Today I'm going to repot my Trident Maple that I got from Ray's nursery. So it's definitely not pot bound. You can see there's lots of room for the roots to grow. But you can see the roots are all growing down near the bottom. I think they're looking for oxygen near the drainage hole, so I think a more porous soil would be better for the tree. So with maples you can do some pretty aggressive root pruning and the tree will still survive. They're good at growing roots. Okay, so I've got the root base fairly clean now. I'm going to get a bucket of water and wash it all off, and then we can come back and prune up the roots. I've got a bucket of water here, so now I'll swish my roots around in it, getting them nice and clean. Here's a look at the root system. So there's a lot of nice radial roots coming around at the soil surface level. And then I've got this big straight taproot that goes way down. So that's got to be removed or reduced. And usually, you know, the first cut I reduce it by about half. So I'll come in here and cut it off. Like that. And that gets rid of all those roots that were circling around the bottom. And it reduces the taproot a lot, and that'll stimulate more surface roots to grow. And eventually, you know, I'll come in the next time and cut that taproot probably all the way back and really work on those radial roots. There's a look at my root system now. So you can still see there's a taproot there. I've cut it in half. The next time I can reduce it all the way back. All right, that is good. One thing I noticed on the maple is that the roots weren't active yet. There was no new growth on the root system. All the root system was from last year. So that is a good time to repot them, just before the roots resume to grow. So here's a look at my Trident Maple, ready to grow for this spring. I think by the end of summer, this tree is going to look quite different. I think, you know, the trunk will probably double in size. I'll get a lot of branching up top. Should begin to look like a tree. So now it will be interesting later on, closer to spring when I repot this, to see exactly what's going on with the roots, how they've grown, how thick they are. I think they'll be quite good. I think it will take another severe root pruning to get them sorted out even more, but I think they're on the right track to becoming, you know, a radial root system. So I've got to prune up the tree. You can see I took a big branch off here and it's completely healed over, which is just amazing. These Trident Maples heal well. There's been a pruning here, and you can see this branch is really thick compared to the trunk. So that's not so good. I may have to reduce that. You can see here I have multiple branches coming from one spot. I've got 3 from one spot there. I got bar branches here. Bar branches. Yeah, lots of stuff going on. That shouldn't be. So let's get to the pruning. All right, here I go. I have a branch that's down low here. If I let that thicken up, it will thicken up the base of my tree, but the more this branch grows, the larger a scar I'll get here when I do decide to remove it. Unless I want it, you know, a twin trunk, a branch or trunk line starting from down low. But I don't want it on this tree. I want a fairly smooth trunk, so I'm going to remove this lowest branch. And I'll come in here and just clean that bump up, so it heals nice and flush, just like that. So that should be good. Coming up the tree then, I have a branch here that's kind of, it's on a pretty good angle. It's not horizontal, it's not drooping, it's coming up. And I want the tree to flow upwards. I don't want it to be like one of those maple trees that looks like a wedding cake, where it has all the layers of horizontal foliage and it just doesn't look anything like a maple tree. I want this to look like a maple tree you'd see in nature. One that you'd see around here anyway. So I've got to decide. I like this branch because it's thinner, but it's not coming off in a radial direction from the trunk. It's coming off like 90 degrees from where it should be. So this branch is a good direction. So I'm going to remove the ones that are coming off to this each side. Like that. The one on that side, and then the one on this side. Like that. And then this branch here, I'll clean out the dead portion in the middle. You can see where I pruned it last time and it's died back and created 2 new branches. Now here, this one is going vertical. It's kind of parallel to the trunk, so I can't use that. So that one's coming off. This one, I've got one that's coming horizontal and a bud that's facing upwards. I do want this branch to kind of sweep upwards. I think I pruned it here once and I have branches each side here, but I think I'm trying to decide if I prune it back to these buds or keep this division up here. I guess this division isn't bad. I'll take the one out the middle, the dead one. Prune this one back, equalizing these 2 branches. I'll leave it like that. I'm just going to clean up this point here so I don't get a bump there or a bulge. Very careful here. That looks good. Just one more little nibble here. Yeah, that's good. So that should flow quite nicely, developing that branch. I'm going up the tree now, so I've got a branch here. I would like a branch on this side. So I like the thickness of this branch better. It's thinner. This one's getting very, very thick here. This is a very thick branch. You can see it's about half the diameter of the trunk already. I'm going to remove this branch. It's growing over top of the one below it, and it comes off the trunk at 90 degrees. It's kind of useless. There's also a bud out the back here. Now this one, you know, there's not a lot of growth out this side of the tree, so I'm going to keep that one. It may sweep upwards and become a branch in the future. I'll keep that option open. There's one here. I think this one's good also. It's on the outside of the curve here. I think I probably should continue this as my trunk line. So imagine taking that whole top off there. I think that's what I should do. It gives me good taper coming all the way up to here. If I go even higher, I've got this straight section here, which isn't so attractive. You know, even though the tree is straight, it has some subtle movement here. I think that's what I think is best is just to take it back, make this the leader, cutting off everything else. Except for, you know, my little buds that are forming. Let's do that. Let's do that. It's a kind of a big move, but I think it'll make the tree look really good. I do. I'm going to get my branch pruners. So here I go. I'm going to start by cutting off this branch like that. And then I'm going to roughly cut it off here like this, like that. And then I'll start doing it a little closer cut here. I think right, angling it like this. Here I go. Beautiful cut there. So now I have a set of buds here. I've got a set back here. You can see the bud. There's one bud going vertical here and one coming down. So the bud that's on the top will probably be the new leader. However, I'm going to keep my options open. I'm going to prune it. There's a vertical bud here and a horizontal, so I'll prune it just in front of that. So I have two options. This one could grow more vertical, or this one. I'm hoping this one does. If it doesn't, I've got some backups. So I think that's it for the pruning. I think you can see, I hope you can see that it's looking a little more tree-like maybe. It's certainly thicker than it was when I first got this tree. It used to be very skinny. It was a seedling. Now it's starting to develop into a little more of a mature stick. So I'll get some more branching coming off of it. The leader will grow like crazy. I'm sure this cut point will heal really well over the summer. It's going to be exciting developing this tree. So the next big step will be the repotting once again, sorting the root system out as much as I can, repotting it, and then it'll be clip and grow over the summer. I am going to seal my wounds with my rubber cement. This tree has been dormant in the basement over the winter. So it's been chilling out at about anywhere from 6 degrees Celsius to about 10 degrees Celsius on average. So, you know, fairly cool. Oh, there's a cut there. I can seal up, and a little one here. Oh, and the one down here too. Okay, so that rubber cement has sealed those cuts up. So, because it's been chilling down in the basement, you can see after I made this big cut here, I didn't get a lot of bleeding. That's because the tree isn't active yet. It's still in dormancy. Now, I have some whips, some Trident Maple whips here. I'm going to try planting them as cuttings because this is the only Trident Maple I have. And I would certainly like to get more of them. I'm just making clean cuts at the bottom here. And I'll get these planted as cuttings. I'm going to take the tops off them too. They're a little tall. Like that. So I've got 3 sticks ready for planting as cuttings. Actually, I might as well plant the other ones too. I might as well plant them all. And then just see. Maybe they'll grow, maybe they won't. It's always worth a shot. You know, there's no harm in planting your cuttings. Maybe, you know, if 1 in 20 grows, well, you got 1 tree out of 20 tries, which is not bad. I have a tray down here where I put all my cuttings. I've got juniper cuttings in here, all kinds of cuttings. Okay, so those are planted. Oh, there's another little one here. I'll give them a water. Make sure they're kind of in there really well. So let me give them a watering. Speaking of watering, this 2-liter conservatory can by Haas, it's a plastic can. It costs about $25 or somewhere around there. It hasn't been available for sale since the pandemic started, but now my wife just got a notification that Lee Valley Tools, which is where I bought this one from,
is now selling them once again. There's green ones of these. So I'm going to buy a backup. It's always good to have these on hand. They're really good for watering bonsai. I'd highly recommend them. I'm going to prune up one more seedling today, and that's my Pyrenean Oak. I got this from another YouTuber. Wow, it sure is a blue sky out there. Here's a look at the tree. So I have a central leader coming up. It divides into 3 here, and I have a couple of branches down low. You'll notice on the ends of the branches, there's a cluster of really large buds. I'll show you a close-up of it. Here's a look at those terminal buds at the end of the branches. You can see how large they are and vigorous they are. If I let these grow, what happens is this branch will like double in length. It'll shoot up like tremendously. And the buds back here have the possibility of dying off because they're kind of weak. The tree will just put all the energy into growing this branch taller and longer. And all those, back buds back here will just weaken up. They'll just, die. They won't ever grow. So what I want to do is prune off those large terminal buds, activating all these back buds to get a finer looking tree. So it's not a quickly grown kind of coarse looking tree. So it has nice movement and taper in the branches. I do want to grow a straight trunk on this tree. I would say 90% of the oaks you see in nature will have a straight trunk, basically. So I'm going to prune. This branch is really taking over. It's growing with more vigor than the main leader of the tree. So I'm going to prune it off. I have an outward facing bud way back here. I've got another one up here. I think if I prune it off to here, this is too long of a straight section. If I prune it off here, it's pretty good. This bud kind of grows out the back and this one kind of grows out the front, so I could prune it off there, which would be quite good. I think, this bud is the better leader, going more horizontal. But I'll prune it off here, kind of keeping a bit of safety. That way, if it dies back, at least this bud will always live. I'll do the same on this branch. I've got a bud way back down here. I've got one here, one here. So I think I'll go just above this one, like that. Then going up, I have some buds here. These are fine. This one isn't very big. These terminal buds here are quite large. So I'm going to this is new growth. You can see it's green. This is the old growth from the year before. I'm just trying to decide where to prune this branch. I could go quite short here. All the vigor is usually in the top of these trees. So I think I will. I'm going to go right to here. Like that. And this one, I will prune off right. I'm looking for outward facing buds. Right here. No, right here. Yeah, right here. Like that. I do have some really vigorous buds down low here. I've got one here which is quite fat. There's a smaller one here. Do I want any branches down this low? No, I don't. So I'm going to rub these buds off. So I just go with my fingers, or I guess I'll prune it. It's kind of tough. Take that bud off. I'll take this bud off. I just don't want any buds developing into branches down low. I'm going to take this one off too. This will be my first branch, second branch, and apex. So I'll get, upright branches eventually forming a broom-style canopy. And it's possible, if these branches are too low, I may develop it into a larger tree. But those will be decisions made at a later date. I think this is good for now. Yeah, so if this main leader, takes off, that's a good thing to get vigor into this main leader. taking vigor out of this really vigorous branch. Trying to kind of equalize the vigor in the canopy of the tree. So the next big step will be the repotting. I don't know if I'll be repotting it this year. Let me just see how it feels. It's not real firm in the pot. Like it wiggles a bit. It feels like the roots are all on the one side, and it's the side that this vigorous branch is on. So I don't think there's a lot of roots on this side feeding this side of the tree. So I'm going to leave it another year, hopefully develop some more roots on this side of the tree, and then repot it next year. So that is all the work on my Pyrenean Oak, which is pretty cool. I was just looking at the pot. This pot has never, I don't think it's ever frozen, but you can see, I don't know if it's the glaze that's cracking. I have a feeling it's the pot. These cheap pots, they're just cheap. You know, they're usually, if you have a hardy tree in them, they usually don't last through the first winter. If you have tropical trees in them, even then they can still crack. They're just so cheap. The clay is just not good quality, and they're not fired very well, I guess. And yeah, they're pretty useless for bonsai. That's why I've stopped getting the cheap pots, because it's just throwing your money away. Even though this was from a thrift store, it probably cost me $3.50. It's still $3.50 that's wasted because it's all cracking and it's pretty useless. It'll get me through probably the next summer, and that's it. Before we go today, I just wanted to show you my paper bark birch tree. This tree was also grown from a seed. And I just want to show you that all these little seedlings in 3 to 5 years become more of a tree. Here is a look at the birch tree. So you can see the diameter of it. You know, it's still a skinny tree. It's about the size of my finger. But it's developing branches and a branch structure. It came from a seed. It's very exciting growing trees from seeds. They grow into trees sooner than you think. This is grown from a seed. These two are from seeds. The black pine is from a seed. All these Osage oranges in the forest are from seeds. I have so many trees grown from seeds, and they're starting to get a little more mature now. You know, this one's starting to look more like a tree. It still looks like, well, I guess in between a seedling and a tree. But I think it'll only take a couple more years, and this tree will be looking pretty good. All these silver maples here were grown from seeds. My English oaks here, royal oaks, they're grown from seeds. My giant sequoias, I've grown these from seeds. I sure hope that they develop new shoots off these branches I pruned. I can see there's, shoots developing on the apex. Yeah, some people have said in the comments that if you prune all these branches off, they just die off and it gets a new shoot coming out the top. That's something I'll have to see. If that starts to happen, if I get a shoot coming out the top, I'll have to pinch it and try and get these lower branches to grow. Yeah, it's something I'll just have to see. This is a new species for me, so we'll see what happens. While we're over in this area of the greenhouse, I thought I better mention, this is my black willow tree, and I pruned it in winter. And what I've noticed is that even though I sealed all the cuts with glue, rubber cement, that the branch has died back to the first set of buds. Here you can see the bud on the end is dead. You can see the dead part dying back, and how it went from a good green color to sort of this brown shade, which isn't good. So I think it's going to die back to this bud here. The branch here, it's also that kind of sickly brown color. So I don't hold a lot of hope that this branch is going to grow. So I'm thinking that maybe the winter time is the wrong time to prune these willows. Is that
maybe I should wait until they're actively growing and then prune them, so the cuts heal really quickly and it starts growing again. Yeah, I'm thinking that's maybe where I'm going wrong with these willows, is pruning at the wrong time. So I'm going to try, I'm sure this tree will recover and grow. So I'm going to try the next time. I'll let it grow in spring. When it gets kind of long, then I'll prune it back. It'll grow again for the summer. Maybe one more pruning and that's it. I won't prune it over the winter then. If I go over here to my other willow, this is the one I sawed the top off, and I didn't touch these branches at all. And you can see, maybe you can't see. Here, focus on my hand. Yeah, you can see all the green buds coming on the branches, and they look really healthy. So these branches weren't pruned, and I was thinking of pruning them, and I thought, no, I'll just let them grow. And I'm glad I did. I don't know about dieback at the top. I have leaves coming out on the top branches, so I think the big chop was successful on it. I'm pretty sure all those top branches are alive. They've got leaves coming out on them. So, yeah, so willows, you know, I think winter pruning is maybe not the best thing for them. That's my guess at the present moment anyway. The sun is getting lower in the sky now, and the temperature of the greenhouse has really cooled off. So right now it's about 16 degrees Celsius in here. So it's gone from like over 20 down to 16, and I'm sure it'll drop very quickly. So it was only warm in here for maybe an hour or two at the very most. So I think that should be okay for the trees. I don't think they'll break dormancy with that little, that little short warm spell. The only disadvantage I see of growing trees from seeds is that you get these large seed trays. They take up a lot of space here in my greenhouse. I can't put the seed trays outside because the squirrels take all the seeds. They just dig them up and they're gone. So I have to keep them in the greenhouse, and they take up a lot of space. Sometimes, some of the years I planted like 5 trays of seeds. Sometimes I get none of the seeds germinate. Sometimes I get every one germinate. It's kind of whatever. They're not 100% reliable, the germination rate on seeds, because you never know where they came from, if they were picked at the right time, if they're old seeds or whatever. So yeah, seeds take up a lot of space. Once they've grown into seedlings, you can put them in a little pot, the ones that survive, and it's kind of exciting. But I would highly recommend you try growing trees from seeds. You get the species you want, you can train it how you want, so it'll look like the tree you want in the end. So that is all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.